The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, well, this is why you're here. We're here to talk about that. And just, I guess you should probably just explain what's going on.
Well, I guess I'll just kind of take you through the order of events here. That was my 10th fight, fighting for the Bellator title, and in all my other 9 fights previously, it was never required for me to get a brain scan done, just due to the different states that I was fighting in at the time. The commissions there didn't require it. In the U.S., it's California and New York, and then Europe, requires a brain scan. We were originally scheduled to fight in January at the Forum in California, the same event that just happened this past Saturday night. So we were going to fight 2019 at the Forum in January, and that fight got postponed. Mousasi was injured, and we eventually got rescheduled to fight in June in London. So I already had a brain scan scheduled for December to get approved for that fight in January. But I got the news about the fight getting canceled like the week of that scan, a couple days before. So I canceled it. I said, I don't need to go get that done now. And so fast forward, I basically stayed in camp the whole year, training, with that fight on my mind all the way from November when I started the first camp for the fight in January, into the new year, waiting for the new date. And it was March that I got the word that we were going to fight in June in London. And so, I was basically training all year, and I just picked right back up into camp. And fast forward on into the very beginning of May, I was, already a good month into like the serious camp. And I was just getting ready to fly to Brazil, Curitiba, to get into the hardest phase of camp. I was going to be there for 3 weeks, and I had to get my MRI done, and I wanted to get it done before I went to Brazil, just to check it off the list. So this was actually the week I had 2 good buddies of mine, Jake Mapes and Sam Alvey, were in Oklahoma training with me. And we had a great week of training. Everything's going really, really well. And it's Thursday. And so I go get my brain scan done to get that done before I went to Brazil. And I'm in there, and we get through the whole process, and the machine is done. It's not operating anymore. But they haven't called me out of the room yet. And I could kind of just sense something was going on. So finally they say, okay, come on out. And the radiologist, with really no candor or like an easy, soft way of saying it, was like, dude, have you seen your brain before? There's some stuff in here you need to see. And he, pulls me into the room and shows me on the screen. He's like pointing out these, look like little balls. Obviously it looked like something was wrong. It didn't look like a normal scan, but I don't know,
Balls
like shades of discoloration, like according to the scan itself. Like you could see that, it wasn't normal. And he didn't even know what it was at the time. And he was like, let me look this over tonight. And I had my paper, to get signed off that everything looks clear and normal. And, and he was just like, he asked me if I had any concussions and if I've had any issues. And I said, no. And he's like, well, this doesn't look right, and you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I'm like, okay, so are you going to sign this paper? And he's like, no. And he's like, come back tomorrow, and I'm going to give you some more information. I say, okay. So I go back Friday, and he tells me that, he did some research, and he believes that I have a disease called cavernoma. And, he kind of hits me with that. I had no idea what cavernoma was. And, he says, look, I'm not signing this paper. You need to go see a specialist and get this looked at. But as far as I know, you should not fight. You should not be fighting. And then the next morning, I fly to Brazil for my camp, to go down there for the hard sparring and everything that I like to do, stuff we talked about last time. And so I'm like I'm in the airport, getting ready to go to Brazil for this portion of my camp, for this fight that is like the biggest fight of my life. I've already waited an extra 6 months for it. I've been training for it all year. And at this point, I'm like just in shock of what is going on, my health. And, so I'm like Googling everything that I can about cavernoma and trying to understand what it is. And basically, it's a disease where I probably got it from one of my parents. It's normally a hereditary disease, and your brain forms these extra blood vessels. And these blood vessels grow, and they can accumulate and sort of bundle up together into balls, almost like weeds or vines. They wrap up together, and these blood vessels are very prone to bleeding. Now they don't bleed so much in an instance where it could cause a hemorrhage. It's more like a slow. They use the term oozing effect. So it oozes blood out over time, very little by little, and as they accumulate, those balls are very much more susceptible to bleeding. And reading about it while I'm getting ready to go, I'm flying to Brazil. I'm in the airport. I'm taking off. There's so many like extreme cases of this disease where people have to have multiple surgeries to get them removed. Seizures, vision issues, people go into comas, and then of course, worst case is even death. And, obviously Googling and, not talking to a specialist and just kind of doing my own thing is not the best way to get information. And so I just have all these thoughts running in my head about, what I'm dealing with in my health, and like, okay, now I'm going to, Brazil to, train and spar, and I have this fight, and I'm right now I don't have anyone signing off on this paper. Is this going to happen? What's going on? Like all these questions. And so I get there, and, at this point, the only one that knows is my girl, and I'm confiding in her, and I'm just like talking to her, and, she's shocked. I've never had any issues. I don't even really get headaches. I've never been knocked out. There's never been a time in my life where I thought, man, I should get my head looked at. I think something could be wrong, And so, talking with her, and then I have my coach, Mauricio. He's my head MMA coach and my Muay Thai teacher. And he goes with me down to Curitiba, and we train there at his brother's academy, Andre Dida, at Dida's Academy, Evolução Thai. And, we fly Saturday, arrive Sunday, start training Monday, and I'm just like, I'm trying to train this first day, and I'm just like, what am I doing? And I'm getting hit in the head, and I'm like, man, am I slowly killing myself right here? Like, what am I training for at this point? I'm not approved. Like, what am I going to do? Right. And so we talk it over, and we're like, okay, obviously we need to get more opinions, and I'm down in Brazil for 3 weeks, basically all of May. The fight was June 21st, or 23rd, something like that. And so I'm spending all of May there. So I need to see some Brazilian doctors, some doctors down here in Curitiba. And so we just begin the process. Let's get a prescription.
Do you speak Portuguese?
I'm not 100% fluent, but I can get around. I can do pretty well on my own down there, just from all the trips that I've done over the years. So, thankfully, Mauricio, his brother Dita, they have so many connections down there, being who they are and the history that they have, teaching martial arts. You get to know everybody,
Yeah.
right? And so they were able to make things happen quick for me. We saw a doctor, got a prescription for another MRI, get scheduled to get that MRI done, which happens on Friday, the end of my first week there. So I'm going that whole week, training, trying to stay positive. But I'm wondering, what am I doing? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can't begin to describe the thoughts and emotions.
I can't imagine that. I mean, it'd be so distracting during sparring as well.
Oh, yes. And, they go harder down there.
To put it mildly.
Yeah.
Like that place is known for like some of the most ruthless killers to ever come out of Brazil.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
That's shoot the box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping well. I'm emotional wreck, basically. I'm calling my girl over FaceTime, multiple times a day. We're looking at each other on the screen. I'm crying. I'm confiding in Mauricio, and Shanji Ribeiro was also there with me. I had an Airbnb with Shanji. So thankfully I wasn't on my own 24/7 outside of the academy. Mauricio always stays with his family. And, I'm just like, man, when Shanji arrived that Monday or Tuesday and I tell him what's going on, I'm just like, dude, I'm a mess right now. Like, I don't know, I'm just so uncertain of my health and what's going on. I just can't put it into words,
Right.
But I'm trying to stay positive. And we get through that first week, get the MRI, the new MRI down there in Brazil. So then we have, the Brazilian MRI to take to Brazilian doctors. And so then the second week, we start seeing neurologists and, specialists to get their opinion and see what they have to say. And that was the hardest week ever because multiple doctors were all saying no. When you look at the scan right off the bat, it just like it doesn't look good.
Do you have a picture of it?
Man, actually, I don't have one with me right now. But you just see these gray, like, little shades of circles. Like,
A lot of them?
Well, I have multiple, and most of them are very small, like popcorn size. And, those aren't that dangerous, at least yet. But there is one accumulation on the back side of the right side of my head, back here. And that has built up, and it looks big.
Like how big?
Fist? Probably like somewhere between a baseball size, like golf ball to baseball, in between there.
Jesus.
It's pretty big, but it's on the very outer rim, so it's not like in the middle of my brain. It's on the outside, so if you were to go right through my head, it could be right there. You could essentially pull it out without having to go through too much stuff.
Is that something that might actually have to happen?
No, not now. Not now. I'll fast forward, to the doctors I end up seeing here in the States who clarify a lot of this, but that's.
But the doctors in Brazil all say the same thing.
Well, they're kind of just. I mean, fighting already isn't good for your brain. You know what I mean? Getting hit in the head isn't good for your brain, and I think just looking at it when you see it, and then that I'm going to get hit in the head, and what I do, you're automatically going to be like, hey, there's already this extra bit of of danger that we're putting in to a dangerous situation. Let's not roll the dice. Let's not play that game. And so we were getting multiple doctors saying no, and even one was like, they said that jiu-jitsu could be dangerous, that me getting my blood cut off like in a choke, cutting off the circulation to my brain, that could be dangerous. And so this week, I am literally not sleeping at all. I am crying multiple times a day. And I'm just like, man, what am I doing? I'm going into the sparring, and I'm training, and I'm not going to get approved. I'm not going to fight, and this has already been like a 6-7 month training camp at this point, and it's for the belt. It's my life's work. It's everything for me, So I was just crushed day in, day out, trying to get through. And on Thursday of that week, I'm doing MMA sparring, and I kind of had it coming. I shouldn't have been going as hard as what I've been going, but I was like trying to stay positive and stay ready. Like, what if I need to be ready for this fight? It's Musasi. Like, I got to be at my best. And in reality, I was just training like garbage. I was having my worst training camp, my worst fight camp, because of everything. And on this day, I'm in my third round of MMA sparring, and I strained my hamstring bad. I go for like a double leg, and the guy has a judo background. He overhook, like wizards me, and goes for like a Uchimata Haraigoshi type of throw. I'm wearing wrestling shoes. I try to drop my hips, so he doesn't elevate me. And my knees go straight, and my foot gets stuck in the floor with the wrestling shoe. And my hamstring just snapped, pop, like a loud, like pop, pop, pop. And I just scream, and I let it go, and I get thrown down, and I'm just like, ah. And he knew something was wrong. We stopped right there, and my leg is just throbbing. And I tried to get up. I couldn't get up. So I had to like walk on my hands, scoot off the mat. I got carried out of the academy that day. I could not walk. And I'm sitting down on the edge of the mat, and I'm just like, I burst into tears. And I look up to Mauricio, and I'm like, man, it's not going to happen. Like, there's no way, all this is going on. I'm not approved. I'm training horrible. I can't walk now, And so, that was the end of week 2. All no's. We have one more doctor to see, who's like the professor of many of the doctors that I already saw. He's very highly regarded, one of the best doctors in the south of Brazil, neurospecialist, neurosurgeon. We were so lucky to get in to see him, and because he's booked up. But we managed an appointment time for Monday of the third week, Monday night. So, I'm basically given up. I can't walk. I'm at home that whole weekend, and Shanji, he had seminars on the weekend. He came down there to support me in camp, but on the weekends he was going off to teach seminars in different areas of Brazil. And so I'm laid up in this Airbnb all weekend, and I'm like just FaceTiming my girl, and I'm like, baby, like, I don't think this is happening. I can't believe I've come this far, to the title shot, this much training, for the camp, like going from November of 2018 into the end of May of 2019. That was it. It was just this fight with Musasi. And it took everything for me. Like, this sounds funny, but the house, the Airbnb, the host, she's like a great host. She left so many chocolates and all this food in the house, like sweets. And I just wanted to pig out and eat all these chocolates. I kept telling Shanji, bro, you got to eat these things. Like, I can't look at these. I'm such an emotional wreck right now, and I'm in the spot all weekend by myself, and I'm ready to give up. I'm like, I'm going to go eat churrascaria, you know what I mean? And eat all these chocolates and just like, you know, because I have to diet very strict to make 185.
What do you walk around at?
Around 210 to 215 is my normal weight, you know?
Sounds big cut.
So, I mean, that weight is kind of normal. Like most guys at 185 are around 210. But I'm already tall. I'm already naturally pretty lean. So I have to be very strict on my diet to get that low. And it took everything for me to not just pig out and just like totally give in. But, you know, Mauricio was just like, hey, we have one more doctor. The whole weekend, all I did was just put CBD cream on my leg, Resilient CBD, shout out to them, they're my sponsor. And I was using the Mark Pro on my leg.
What's a Mark Pro?
It's like similar to like a TENS unit,
okay,
but it has different frequencies and you can go really deep in there. And so I'm just like, okay, let me just try to recover this thing as much as I can. I couldn't train, couldn't do anything. I was basically stuck at home. And that's all I did. And I just said, okay, Monday night, that's it. If he says no, it's done. And at this point, I hadn't told anything to I let my manager, Ed, know, but we hadn't said anything to anybody else. Literally, the only ones that knew were my girl, Shanji Mauricio, and Ed. And so we go see this doctor Monday night. And man, right off the bat, he kind of captivated us because he was the first one to be just chill and just like, okay, what's going on? What brings you here? Didn't look at any pictures, didn't rush it. And I tell him, yeah, I got my scans. It looks like I have cavernoma, He said, okay, let me see your scans. And he's like, yeah, this is cavernoma for sure. How do you feel? The first one to ask me, how do you feel? And I said, well, this is all a huge shock. I've never had any problems. I feel great. I'm fine. I don't even get headaches. And he's like, okay. He talks with me and he's like, let's go do an evaluation. We do an evaluation and do some tests. Everything's normal, like just simple, like, stand on one leg and all that kind of stuff. And everything's fine. And so we go back to the office, we sit down. He's like, let me just see what I can find. But I guarantee I'm not going to find anything that says head impact or trauma is going to increase the risk of your cavernoma bleeding. And so he starts looking up, journals and studies, all the things that doctors have access to. And he literally finds nothing. There is no studies that say that getting hit in your head is going to make your cavernoma worse or cause you to bleed and something's going to happen. And he's like, look, you can bleed, you can be oozing blood at any point in time, little by little. And it could become an issue at some point in time. But there is no treatment. We're not going to do surgery. Like, there's nothing that's going to happen until you have symptoms, until you show signs. And because I can't find any studies that say getting hit in the head is going to make it worse, and because you are, a normal, like, healthy, functioning person at this point, I think it's fine for you to fight. You should continue doing what you do until it becomes a problem. And if it does become a problem, we'll go in there and we'll take it out, the big mass. And then we'll move forward. And so I'm just like, I start getting emotional already, and I'm kind of like, wow, so you'll write a letter saying this? You'll support me? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Super calm guy. And he was the oldest doctor we had spoken to as well, most experienced. And so we get this letter, man. We walk out of that office, me and Mauricio, and as soon as we leave the door and we get to the elevator, man, I just like burst into tears. I can't believe that there's some hope. Like this can still happen. And me and Mauricio embrace and we both cry. Like, oh my God, we got the letter. So I send the letter to Ed, and we begin the process of trying to get approved. We get everything into Bellator, let them know they got the scans. They send it over to the Europe Commission. They use an organization called Safe MMA. And, we kind of like, we're happy, we're positive, but at the same time, I'm still not approved. It's still not on, But the letter is like, that was the missing piece. That was what we needed to be able to move forward. So I finished that last week, unable to really move. I can't wrestle. I can't kick. And my last week in Brazil, I'm literally just hitting mids like this. And I'm like, okay, trying to stay positive. I still have like a month. Let's get this healed. Let's just keep sweating.
Did you get an MRI on the hamstring?
No, I didn't get an MRI on the hamstring. It didn't have any discoloration, so it wasn't a tear. It was like a severe strain.
But with the popping?
It didn't turn black and blue, and so without that discoloration, I almost didn't even want to know. I was just like,
right.
Like.
When did it start feeling better?
It didn't really. I actually still feel it now. It was a situation the whole way. But I could stand. So I could stand, and all I'm doing is boxing now at this point because I can't throw kicks and I can't change levels to do takedowns. And so that was a whole nother thing because, as I'm waiting to hear back on if I'm going to get approved, I'm only punching mitts. Like I might as well be doing like a cardio kickboxing class, without kicks. And that was the last thing that I want to do with Masasi is just go in there and box,
Right.
That's not what I do. Right. So the hardships and frustrations were just continued, as I'm dealing with my hamstring, but at least we had some hope. So I finished that week, fly home. And now I'm finishing like my last couple weeks of camp at home in Oklahoma. Shanji comes to Oklahoma, Mauricio's there, and I'm trying to put together some great training. One of my best training partners from Curitiba, his name's Cristiano. He came to Oklahoma as well. And, everyone's aware of the situation as far as my coaches, my team. I did not tell my parents. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want it to get out. And so I was just dealing with it with them, And so we send everything in, and we're waiting. We're waiting. This guy, his name's Yanni. He's on the commission with Safe MMA. He reaches out to me like after the first week, and he said, "Hey, we need to talk." And so I give him a call. And he's like, we got the letter. We're looking at your scans. We've actually created a panel of doctors to talk about this. And at this point, it's 50-50. Just want you to know. We're unsure if we're going to approve. And I just want you to hear, I just wanted to touch base with you, wanted you to hear from me. We see everything, but you have to understand we're still not sure. So bear with us. I'm like, okay. Try to get through the next week. I had some decent days with my hamstring where I could shoot a little bit and work some takedowns, but if I had a good day, the next day I had to take it real light because it was so tight, so tender.
Did you get it massaged at all?
Oh yeah, I was doing everything possible. I mean, getting it worked on, doing hot, cold, like, I'm pretty, like, anything out there that is for recovery, I have probably at my house. I'm big on really taking care of my body, so I was just trying to be as smart as I could and just get through it. And we come to this point now where the fight is 2 weeks away, and I don't know if it's on or not. And I'm just trying to put together as good of training as I can, stay as positive as I can. But at the same time, I'm just like, man, I need the yes. I need to be able to focus.
How are you staying conditioned when you barely can use your leg?
Man, it was really hard. I was heavier. I was walking around heavier than what I normally would for my fights. By this time, I'm normally below 205, in the 200 to 205 range. That's where I like to get to, just off pure diet and off training. And I was still 210 to 212. It was hard. Like I couldn't. I could box, and I could box hard, and I could spar boxing, but without wrestling, I didn't feel like I was conditioned the way I wanted to be. I couldn't sprint. I could ride the bike. The bike didn't put too much pressure, but I couldn't go all out the way I would like to.
Like an Airdyne?
Yeah. Airdyne. Everything was not the way it would normally be done. Now, you're never 100%. You're always dealing with something. I've had a broken nose before, cuts, rib things. Like there's always something. But it was the stress of both and the uncertainty on if we would get to fight at all.
Yeah.
That was really hard, and for sure that's why I got hurt. That's 100% why I got hurt. But anyways, finally, on like the last day that they could give me the answer, they gave me the answer, and I got the email, and it said, "We've approved you. You are approved to fight." 2 weeks before the fight.
Wow.
I held off on, I'm flying my family there. You know what I mean? I have all my there's the corner coaches, but I have a couple other coaches that I was, going to fly out there, and I was waiting to purchase these tickets, and I had some other guys like, "Hey, where are you staying? What's going on?" Like, I'm ready, and I'm like, "Hey, don't book anything just yet. Don't book any, because I don't want them to buy tickets to London, and I'm not fighting." And I'm trying to like be cool and not give anyone too much of an idea of what's going on, and stay positive, stay confident and everything. Finally, we got the green light, and I'm literally flying a few days later to London. We left on Tuesday and arrived there Wednesday. I got there like 10 days before, so I have 1 weekend before the weekend of the fight. At this point, it was like, okay, once we got that yes, we celebrated. It was like, that's all I wanted. I had already fought so hard just to be able to get to this fight,